Hi everyone, welcome back. If you want to support me with what I'm doing, please just press like and subscribe. Looking at decimals with ratios, I've got lots of other videos on ratios and how to simplify them. So if you go to my playlist on ratios, you'll see a lot of harder circumstances. But I hadn't done one as yet on decimals and what happens with decimals. I was helping a student a little while ago and saw how much trouble they were having with decimals. So if you look at the first one up here, lots of things happen. Actually, the student I was talking to said, well, we can move the decimal, and he went like this. We move the decimal that way, and we move the decimal that way. Now, if we went ahead and did that, and let's have a look what happens with the situation. You're going to have 0.02, and you're going to have 0.08. So we've actually made it worse. Now, lots of people talk about multiplying by 10, but I just want to go this arrow system. Because when people really don't understand maths, well, I need to give them something simple to remember. Now, if you move it that way, and we actually did what it said, it made it worse, made it much more horrible. Look at this one here. If we move that decimal ones there, we move that decimal ones there, the 0.2 becomes a 2, and the 0.8 becomes an 8. So I put an equals over here for them. So then it's obviously made it easier. Now, people will talk about that we times this one by 10 and we times that one by 10. But you know, when I'm thinking about myself, I'm not thinking of times 10, I'm just moving the decimal. Let's have a look what happens last of all. Now they're both even, and the very first video I made on ratios was if they were even. I got half this side, 2 into 2 goes 1s, and I got half that side, 2 into 8 goes 4. So if that makes sense to you, you can just go halving, or you can go 2 into 2 goes 1s, 2 into 8 goes 4. So this one's exactly the same. So I've basically done the same, but this time, instead of having even numbers, so if your brain goes to go that way, it's going to go 0.09, and it's become worse. So we don't want to go worse, you need it to go that way. If that one goes 1, that one goes 1, and of course you can talk about we're multiplying by 10. Multiply this side by 10, we multiply that side by 10. Then we're left with just a 9 and just a 6. Now when I want to cause a little bit of a problem for students, 2 and 8, very few students have problems with. The moment I go to these numbers, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, I'm going to leave them in the middle here, so I've got some more questions with them, 18, 21, and if you don't know your 3 times tables, it doesn't take long to write down 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. So I always talk about when I use 3s, a lot of students have problems. If I use 2s, people don't have problems. If I use 5s, people don't have problems. If I use 10s or 11s, they don't have problems. But the moment I use 3s, lots of people have problems. So if we talk about, you could have picked up your calculator, but often it'll be in the non-calculator section. How many 3s go into 9? And the answer's 3 times. If you look here, there's the first one, there's the second one, there's the third one. So we went 3 plus 3 plus 3. So 3 into 9 goes 3 times, and 3 into 6 goes the second one, so that's twice. And that's your simplified ratio. Don't forget what we're looking for is the lowest whole number version. So that's the lowest whole number version. If I halve that, I can get a lower number, but then this becomes 1.5. So it's not, it doesn't stay as a whole number. So we're wanting whole numbers. Now, number 3 is almost the same, and I went again, I used a 3 and I used a 15, but in a moment there's a little trick to it. A lot of people will see this one and go jump 1, and they'll go jump 1, and they're left with 3, and they're left with 1.5. And you've got another problem that you've got another decimal. Of course, a lot of people will see that and go, well, you times by 100, and they'll say all sorts of things. But let's say you don't see that. I need to get rid of that decimal, so this decimal now has to jump another 1. So it actually becomes 30. And you can talk about we're timesing by 10, but you're just moving the decimals. And then this one will move over to there, and we've got 15. So in the first place, if you wanted to, you could have jumped 2 decimal places. So the first one jumps to 3, the next one jumps to 0. So there's your 3 and the 0. Whereas this one's more obvious. You jump the 1 and you jump the 5. Now a lot of people will look at that and go, that's 2 to 1. And they'll see it in their heads. But what if you don't see that? Because they end in 5 and 0, I can always say, first of all, how many 5s go into 30? You can sit there and go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. And it goes in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. So we have a 6. How many 5s in the 15? 1, 2, 3, and you've got 6 to 3. A lot of students will think by then they're finished, but it's not the smallest possible answer using whole numbers. So now we're back to 3s. There's your 3 and there's the 6. So these are the ones you're going to look at over and over again. So how many 3s go into 6? twice, most you'll see it in your head. How many threes in the three? Goes once, and that's the best version of the answer. Seen a lot of students who will get to here, or get to there, or get to here, and they'll end up losing a mark because they didn't know they weren't in the best version. Another trick, this time I'm going to move that one once. So I'm going to move this one once. Now, I'm not even saying what I'm doing there. Most people are okay that the decimal is actually here next to the 2. There's no decimal there, so it's got to be there. So what am I going to jump over? A 0. I do have students who need to write this down though. I'll write that as 2.0 and 0.4. So they put the decimal in here, so when they do the jumping of the decimals, it's a bit more obvious to them. Depends on what happens for you and how your brain works. So then we end up with a 20 and we end up with a 4. And we're back to something a bit different. These are even numbers. If they're both even, if I halve this side, what's a half of 20? You can go to 10. And what's a half of 4? And you can go to 2. So we're halving when they're even numbers. Makes it a bit easier. Now we'll go a step further. I'll go across because I'm running out of room. That is still even and that is still even. So then you can halve this one's 5. You can halve that one is, that 2 is 1. And that one's pretty good. Now 3 of them. What happens with a 3? We jump that one, we jump that one, we jump that one. Can you imagine how much more complicated I could go? I can make one of them whole numbers and make one of them fractions. I could make one of them 2 decimal places and 3 decimal places. I can go absolutely crazy. Let's have a look. That's a 6 to 9 to 3. What's happening here? We've got a 6, a 9 and a 3. So if I want to cause people a little bit of difficulty. So how many 3's in the 6? 3, and that's twice. How many 3's in the 9? That's 3 times. How many 3's in the 3? And it goes once. These numbers can't be simplified any further. People think they can divide by 2. They think they can divide by 3, but it's not nice there. Last one, getting a little bit long-winded. So if I jump the decimal place there, if you're one of the people that needs this, if you put a 0.0 there, there's the decimal, easy. There's the decimal, easy. And you end up with 5 to 300. Now here's where people come unstuck, being able to divide a number like that. One of the simple things I can talk about, they both finish on 5 and 0. So we know we're going to be dividing by 5. So the moment you see 5s and 0s, we're dividing by 5. 5 doesn't go into 3, but if you're comfortable with it, 5 into 30, if you need to work it out, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30. So 5 into 5 goes once, 5 into 30 goes 6 times, but there's another 0 there. So some people will be okay with that if that's all you need to see. Some people need to go 5 into 300. Get rid of this for a moment. 5 into 30 goes 6. 5 into 30 goes 6. And there's a 0 left here. 5 into 0 goes 0 times. Well, I hope that helps. If it does, please let your friends know. I'll see you in future videos. Thanks for watching.